The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long, golden reflections across the still surface of Lake Viridian. Its waters shimmered like liquid glass, disturbed only by the occasional ripple of a fish breaking the surface. James Harrington, a junior scientist at the United Earth's Exploration Corps, stood at the lake's edge, clutching a small scanner in his hands. He had never been to this region of the planet before. The quiet was both calming and unsettling. "Just you, the lake, and nature," he muttered to himself, though a hint of tension lingered in his voice. Something about the way the lake glimmered under the dying sun felt unusual. James had been sent on a field assignment to survey Lake Viridian for unusual energy readings. Officially, the mission was about environmental monitoring, but the private message he had received earlier hinted at something far more extraordinary. A colleague, someone higher in the Corps' hierarchy, had whispered of an object buried beneath the lake bed, a strange, metallic artifact that pulsed with unknown energy. He glanced at his wrist communicator. No signal. The dense forest surrounding the lake seemed to consume all electronic interference. Leaving him isolated in the most literal sense, alone, he took a cautious step forward, the muddy ground giving slightly beneath his boots. As he scanned the lake with his portable sensor, the machine beeped erratically, then fell silent. The readings were unlike anything he had encountered. Energy spikes that defied conventional physics, pulsing rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. James knelt, brushing away the damp soil at the water's edge. Something metallic caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a piece of debris, perhaps a discarded drone. But the object was far too precise in design to be ordinary. Its surface shimmered with colors he could not name, patterns shifting as if alive. "Impossible," he whispered. His hand hovered above the artifact, hesitant. The air around it felt charged, making the hairs on his arms stand on end. "This isn't just old tech. This is something else entirely." He reached for it, careful to avoid touching the surface directly. As his fingers hovered above, the artifact responded. A thin line of light arced across its surface, and a soft hum filled the air, a sound that was not quite mechanical, not quite musical, but resonant in a way that made his chest tighten. A sudden rustling from the forest made him snap around. For a moment, he thought he imagined it, but then a shadow moved among the trees. He wasn't alone. "Hello." His voice sounded small against the vast stillness of the lake. No reply. Only the soft hum of the artifact. James' instincts told him to retreat, but curiosity anchored him to the spot. He had trained for field exploration, for unknown territories, for situations like this, yet nothing in his training prepared him for the feeling that the artifact itself was aware of him. Tentatively, he lifted it from the mud. Its weight was surprisingly light, almost like holding a hollow piece of metal, yet the energy pulsing from it made his skin tingle. And then, as if triggered by his touch, a thin beam of light shot into the sky, splitting the twilight like a silent lighthouse. James stumbled back, shielding his eyes. The beam's light refracted on the water's surface, sending shimmering patterns across the lake. The air vibrated with energy. Something deep in the forest responded. From the tree line, he saw movement. Something large was emerging from the trees, its form silhouetted against the remaining light. Heart racing, he held the artifact close, unsure whether it would protect him or attract danger. The figure stepped into the clearing, a humanoid shape, but taller and broader than any human. Its skin glowed faintly, reflecting the artifact's light in shifting hues. James froze. "Do not be afraid," the figure said in a voice that resonated in his mind rather than his ears. It was strange there were no words spoken aloud, yet he understood perfectly. "You have found it." James swallowed hard. "Found what? What are you?" The figure's glowing eyes studied him. "A guardian. Of knowledge. Of your kind and of others. The artifact you hold is not meant to be used lightly. It carries memories older than your world, and power beyond your understanding." James' hands shook. He had read about first contact situations in theory, but experiencing one was entirely different. He wanted to speak, but the words caught in his throat. His mind was flooded with images, vast cities floating in space, civilizations rising and falling, strange ships gliding silently over alien landscapes. You are alone, the figure continued, yet not unprepared. Humans have potential. Potential for understanding, for creation, for survival. This artifact has chosen you because of that potential. James' heart pounded. He had always dreamed of contributing to humanity's knowledge of the cosmos. But he never imagined that a lake in a remote sector would become the stage for such a revelation. The artifact pulsed again, and James felt a warmth spread through his body, like an invitation. He had a choice. He could leave it, remain in the safety of the mundane world, and report nothing. Or he could embrace the unknown, and let this discovery change everything he knew about life, the universe, and humanity's place within it. He glanced at the lake one last time. Its waters calm once more, reflecting the sky's deepening indigo. Whatever awaited him, it would be far beyond anything he had faced. Yet, for the first time in his life, fear was tempered by excitement. James took a deep breath. I'll try to understand it, he said. His words were shaky, but firm. The figure nodded. Then your journey begins. Be vigilant. Be curious. And above all, trust in the human spirit. There are forces in the cosmos that even I cannot guide you against. But your ingenuity, your determination, may be enough. The light from the artifact dimmed slightly, settling into a steady glow, as if it were now a companion rather than a mere object. James pocketed it carefully, feeling its energy resonate through him. The lake, the forest, and the fading sunlight all seemed more alive than ever, as though the world itself had acknowledged his choice. As night fell over Lake Viridian, James realized he would never be the same. Alone by the lake, he had found not just a strange artifact, but a glimpse of humanity's potential in the universe. And though the path ahead was uncertain, the human spirit resilient, resourceful, and fearless would guide him. For the first time, he felt what it truly meant to be more than just a small part of a vast world. He felt human, and that, perhaps, was enough to face whatever lay beyond the horizon. Night had fully settled over Lake Viridian, and the sky was a tapestry of stars. James Harrington stood at the edge of the lake, the artifact secured in a padded case, strapped to his chest. The air was cooler now, carrying the scent of wet earth and pine. Even the gentle lapping of the water seemed different, alive. Aware, James could hardly sleep that night. He kept replaying the encounter with the glowing figure, the guardian of the artifact. He didn't understand much, but he knew one thing for certain. This object was extraordinary, possibly holding knowledge far beyond human comprehension. By first light, he had made his decision. He would study the artifact, learn from it, and document every detail. He knew the Earth's exploration corps would be curious, but this was beyond routine research. This was discovery at a level humanity might not be ready for it, but he wanted to try anyway. The first morning was quiet. James set up a small lab near the lake, using portable equipment he had carried in his pack. The artifact, still glowing faintly, sat on a metal platform. He ran basic scans first: energy frequency, surface composition, and magnetic interference. Every reading was puzzling. The artifact's material didn't match anything in the core's database. Its energy signature was variable, as if it responded to his presence, his thoughts, or perhaps his intent. James frowned. It's like it's alive, he muttered. Or, aware, as he leaned closer, the artifact pulsed again. This time, the light was warmer, more inviting. He reached out slowly. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, his vision blurred. The lake, the forest, and even his own body faded. For a brief moment, he felt weightless, suspended in darkness. Then images began to appear. Cities of crystal and metal, floating ships gliding silently through the stars, beings communicating in patterns of light. James realized these were memories or visions embedded in the artifact. He stumbled backward, heart racing. It's showing me something, he whispered. It wants me to see. Hours passed like minutes, as he tried to interpret the visions. Slowly, a pattern emerged, a message of sorts. showing that life in the universe was interconnected, fragile, and capable of incredible achievement. The artifact was a repository of knowledge, left behind by an ancient civilization to guide younger species. James' mind buzzed with possibilities. If humans can understand this, we could advance faster than ever before, he thought. But the visions also carried warnings. Wars between species, planets lost to conflict, civilizations destroyed by greed or fear. It was not just knowledge, it was a test. By midday, James needed a break. He stepped outside, looking across the lake. The water was calm, reflecting the bright sun. Yet the tranquility seemed deceptive. The artifact's light still pulsed faintly under his jacket, almost like a heartbeat. He wasn't alone for long. Movement in the tree line caught his eye again. His first instinct was caution, but curiosity overpowered fear. Stepping toward the trees, he saw something that made his pulse quicken. A second figure. Humanoid, but smaller, emerging from the shadows. Unlike the guardian from the night before, this one seemed nervous, almost hesitant. "Who, or what are you?" James asked aloud, though. The figure's eyes glowed faintly, communicating more through presence than words. The figure raised a hand slowly. A small device in its palm projected a holographic image into the air. The image showed a star map, with multiple points highlighted, connected by bright lines. James understood immediately. These were locations of other artifacts, scattered across the galaxy. This wasn't an isolated phenomenon. The artifact he held was part of a larger network, left by a civilization that had long vanished. "The artifacts are linked," he said aloud, though he wasn't sure if the figure could hear him. "They guide civilizations." The figure nodded. Though it did not speak, James felt understanding flow between them. Somehow, the being conveyed caution. The artifacts could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Knowledge without wisdom could destroy more than it could create. James looked at the lake, the artifact, and the figure before him. A sense of responsibility weighed on him. Humans were new in the galactic timeline, fragile in comparison to the ancient civilizations displayed in the visions. Yet, the Guardian had said something before: humans have potential. He realized that the artifact had chosen him not because he was perfect, but because he could learn, adapt, and act with integrity. And now, the next step was clear. He needed to understand the artifact fully before moving forward. Back at his makeshift lab, he began experimenting more deliberately. Touching the artifact triggered small pulses of light, almost like responses to his actions. He found that different gestures, angles, and touches elicited different visions. Some showed planets with advanced cities, others with natural landscapes untouched by technology. The artifact was teaching him to observe, to think, and to interpret. Hours turned into days. James documented every observation, sketching symbols, taking notes on energy patterns, and testing how his presence influenced the artifact. With each passing day, he felt a growing connection, almost as if the artifact could sense his intentions, and he could sense its guidance. One evening, as the sun dipped again behind the horizon, James felt a sudden surge of energy from the artifact. This time, the light extended outward, forming a shimmering barrier over the lake. He stepped back, eyes wide. The water began to churn, not violently, but deliberately. Something was emerging. From the depths rose a vessel, sleek and metallic, unlike any human-made craft. Its surface reflected the artifact's glow, patterns of light shifting across its hull. James' breath caught in his throat. The figure from the forest appeared again, standing silently at the water's edge. The sense of urgency in its presence was undeniable. Somehow, it communicated that the vessel was a key, a next step in understanding the artifact's purpose. James hesitated. The ship could hold answers or it could hold danger. Yet deep within, he felt that human ingenuity and courage could meet the challenge. His mind raced with possibilities. Could this ship take him to other artifacts? Could it reveal the civilization that created them? Could it in fact mark humanity's first step into a larger galactic community? He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I have to do this," he said. The artifact pulsed warmly against his chest. Almost as if in agreement, the humanoid figure made a gesture, and the vessel's hatch opened with a soft hiss. Light spilled out, revealing steps leading down into an interior glowing with soft, white illumination. Every surface inside was smooth, organic in design, yet undeniably technological. Symbols similar to those in the artifact lined the walls. James stepped inside, feeling the artifact vibrate with energy. The door closed behind him with a quiet thrum. The vessel shuddered slightly and lifted off the lake's surface with a grace that defied physics, looking out through the translucent walls. James saw the lake shrink below him, the forest receding, the stars becoming clearer as the atmosphere thinned. He realized with a mix of fear and exhilaration that he was leaving the familiar world behind. The artifact pulsed one last time in his hand, and James felt an unspoken message. Trust in yourself. Trust in humanity. You are ready. And with that, the vessel accelerated, slipping through the upper atmosphere, leaving Lake Viridian behind. James' heart pounded, but his mind was clear. The journey had begun. He was alone, yes, but not powerless. Alone, yes, but guided by knowledge, courage, the unyielding spirit of humankind. For the first time, he truly understood the words the Guardian had spoken. Potential was more than strength or skill. Potential was the spark to reach beyond what was possible, to rise above fear, to confront the unknown, and James was ready to rise. The vessel glided silently through the thin upper atmosphere, leaving the world of Lake Viridian far below. Inside, James Harrington stood in awe. The interior of the ship was vast, illuminated by a soft white light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Smooth, curved surfaces formed corridors that seemed both organic and technological at once. The artifact pulsed gently in his hand, as if guiding him forward. Its light shifted and danced, casting patterns across the walls. James felt a strange connection, forming a sense that the ship and the artifact were part of the same design. It's created for the same purpose. He began to explore. Every door panel and corridor was seamless, but symbols on the walls drew his attention. They glowed faintly when he approached, responding to his presence. James studied them carefully, sketching copies in his notebook. They resembled a mix of geometric shapes and flowing lines, like a written language combined with an abstract code. As he moved deeper, a central chamber appeared. It was circular, with a transparent floor showing the stars below. At its center was a pedestal, and upon it rested a holographic interface, floating above the surface like a shimmering pool of light. James' breath caught in his throat. The artifact pulsed more strongly, guiding him toward the pedestal. As he placed it on the platform, the holographic interface activated. A soft voice filled the chamber, not spoken aloud, but in his mind, clear and calm. Welcome, human. You have been chosen to learn. The knowledge you seek is vast, and the journey will test your understanding, courage, and spirit. James felt a thrill. The ship, the artifact, the vision zit, all made sense now. This was not just a tool, but a classroom, a guide, and a test, all in one. He realized the ancient civilization that built this had created a way to teach and elevate species that could reach beyond their homeworlds. The interface displayed a map of the galaxy. Stars and planets connected by luminous lines. Some points glowed brighter than others. James reached out, his hand passing through the holographic projection. Instantly, information appeared, histories, and coordinates. Each point represented a world touched by the network of artifacts. Some still active, some long dormant. James' mind raced. So the artifact on Lake Viridian is just one of many, he whispered. Each one, guiding, teaching. The interface pulsed. A new message appeared. Activate the network to unlock the next stage of knowledge. James hesitated. Activating the network sounded simple in words, but he had no idea what consequences it might bring. Yet the artifact's pulse seemed to encourage him. It's almost as if it trusted him to act wisely. He pressed a sequence on the holographic interface. Guided by instinct and the subtle feedback from the artifact, the ship hummed, energy coursing through its structure, and a soft vibration spread beneath his feet. Lights danced along the walls, casting a mesmerizing display of patterns that seemed to tell a story. Images appeared before him, civilizations rising, exploring their worlds, reaching for the stars. He saw planets teeming with life, cities floating in the atmosphere, and beings interacting with artifacts similar to his own. Some civilizations had used the artifacts responsibly, flourishing. Others had misused them. Falling into conflict and decay, James realized the artifact's lesson. Knowledge was a gift, but it came with responsibility. It could empower or destroy, depending on the choices of those who held it. The ship adjusted its course. Moving silently toward a distant star system, James watched through the transparent floor as the galaxy unfolded below. The vastness of space was both humbling and exhilarating. Humans were small, fragile, and young. Yet the artifact seemed to believe in their potential. Hours passed as he learned to interact with the ship. The controls were intuitive, responding not to force, but to thought and intention. He could see energy readings of nearby star systems, detect habitable planets, and even sense other artifacts' presence in the galaxy. Suddenly, a signal flashed across the interface, a distress signal from a nearby planet. James leaned closer, studying the holographic map. The planet was small, rocky, and barren on the surface. The signal was weak, but unmistakable. The ship's voice, calm and precise, filled his mind. This signal represents life at risk. Intervention is possible. You may choose to assist. Helping a distant world was far beyond his training, far beyond anything humanity had attempted. Yet he felt a pull, a sense of duty, of purpose. He remembered the Guardian's words from Lake Viridian. Humans have potential. Perhaps this was a chance to prove that potential. He nodded. We'll help, he said. The artifact pulsed strongly in agreement. The ship altered its course, accelerating silently through space. As they approached the planet, James saw the surface more clearly. A small settlement existed among jagged cliffs, structures made of stone and metal. Smoke rose from several locations, and the faint flicker of lights indicated inhabitants were still alive. But something was wrong. The layout suggested hurried construction, defensive positioning. The people were not safe. James realized this was a test, both of his courage and of human ingenuity. He had to act carefully. The ship provided tools, energy shields, scanning devices, and structural analysis. He began mapping the planet, locating the areas of greatest need, using the artifact. He projected guidance to the inhabitants, not as instructions, but as patterns of light, symbols they could understand intuitively. He could feel their awareness responding, curiosity and comprehension forming. Slowly, they began to move toward safety. Following the subtle cues of the artifact's energy, hours turned into tension-filled work. As James guided the people to shelters, avoided hazards, and stabilized the settlement's weak structures, he marveled at their resilience, their determination to survive despite danger. In that moment, he realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not in advanced technology or tools, but in spirit, the same quality the artifact had recognized in him. Finally, as the planet's surface settled and the immediate threat subsided, James took a deep breath. He felt exhaustion, but also triumph. For the first time, he had applied what he had learned directly to saving lives. The ship hovered above the planet, and the artifact pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat of approval. James smiled. The journey was far from over, but this success had reinforced a lesson. Knowledge was power, but action, courage, and wisdom were what made it meaningful. He leaned on the railing of the ship's observation deck, looking at the planet below. The stars stretched endlessly beyond, and he understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries, challenges, and opportunities, and for the first time, he felt truly prepared, not because he had all the answers, but because he had embraced humanity's potential. The artifact, the ship, the lessons, they were all guides. But the spark, the courage to act, came from within. James looked down at the artifact in his hands. Its soft glow reflected his own determination. He understood now that the journey was not just about exploration, it was about growth. understanding, and the unyielding spirit of humankind, the ship's course adjusted once more, this time toward a distant star cluster where the next artifact awaited. James felt a mix of anticipation and resolve. The universe was vast, the challenges ahead unknown. But he was ready, and above all he knew one truth: humans, when guided by knowledge, courage, and wisdom, could rise to meet even the greatest mysteries of the cosmos. The ship glided through the dark expanse of space, stars streaking past in silent motion. James Harrington stood at the observation deck, artifacts secure against his chest, and watched the distant star cluster grow larger on the horizon. Each point of light on the holographic map represented an artifact waiting to be found, a beacon of knowledge. Test for humanity. The recent mission to the small planet had strengthened James' confidence. The artifact had guided him, and through courage and careful planning, he had saved lives. Yet he knew the challenges ahead would demand more than knowledge and bravery. The universe had a way of testing those who reached beyond their limits. As the ship approached the star cluster, a series of energy readings appeared on the interface. Multiple signals pulsed simultaneously, each from a different direction. The holographic map highlighted a planet at the cluster's edge, glowing brighter than the rest. It was larger than Earth, with swirling clouds and vast oceans. James sensed immediately that this was the next artifact location. The artifact pulsed in response, warm and insistent, urging him to act. James understood this would not be a simple retrieval. The energy readings were unstable, and the signals indicated complex patterns that might conceal danger or tests. He initiated the ship's descent into the planet's atmosphere. Turbulence buffeted the vessel as it passed through thick, violet-tinted clouds. Lightning flickered across the sky, illuminating towering mountain ranges below. The planet was alive. It seemed to challenge him from the moment he entered its atmosphere. The ship stabilized near a vast plateau. From above, James could see structures partially buried in the landscape massive, angular constructs that radiated energy similar to the artifact. This was no natural formation. It was a city, abandoned yet remarkably intact, built by a civilization far older than humans. James' pulse quickened. The artifact in his hands pulsed brighter, almost vibrating with excitement. He realized the city was a hub, a central station for the network of artifacts. Its purpose was not just to guide, but to test. To assess whether a species could handle the knowledge and power contained within the network, he stepped out of the ship. The ground solid beneath his boots but humming faintly with energy. The wind carried a metallic temps, and distant sounds echoed as if the city itself was alive. Every step he took resonated with the artifact's energy, guiding him toward the heart of the city. The entrance to the central structure was massive, a monolithic archway etched with patterns similar to those on the artifact. James placed his hand on the arch, and the symbols glowed, sliding apart like liquid light to reveal a passage. The interior was cavernous, illuminated by streams of energy that flowed through walls and floors. James advanced cautiously, his eyes adjusting to the surreal glow. The artifact led him to a central chamber, circular and vast, with a platform in the middle. Hovering above the platform was a new device, larger and more complex than the one in his ship. Its surface shimmered, reflecting light in intricate patterns. An energy flowed through the room in visible currents. As he approached, the artifact pulsed violently. The energy from the device merged with it, creating a resonance that filled James' mind. Instantly, he understood the challenge. This was not just a test of intelligence or courage, but of character. He would have to make choices, act wisely, and demonstrate the qualities that made humans capable of more than survival they had to prove they could create, understand, and protect. The device activated. Light formed a holographic projection around James, depicting scenarios of civilizations facing crises, natural disasters, conflicts, and opportunities for growth. Each scenario presented a choice, a path that would affect the outcome of the civilization. James realized the artifact network was designed to evaluate how its user would act under pressure. He felt a surge of responsibility. Every decision mattered, not just for himself, but for the countless civilizations that might benefit or suffer from misuse of the knowledge. James' mind raced through the possibilities, weighing options carefully. He chose paths of cooperation, innovation, and compassion, guided by the lessons he had learned on Lake Viridian and the small planet. As he made each choice, the holographic scenario shifted, growing more complex. Obstacles appeared, environmental hazards, failing technologies, even ethical dilemmas that required creative thinking. The artifact pulsed constantly, testing his reactions, measuring his judgment. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had lost its meaning in the presence of the device. James felt exhaustion creeping in, but he pressed forward. He had to succeed. He understood now that this was more than a test for himself. The artifact network was a tool to prepare species for challenges beyond their homeworld, to ensure that knowledge was used wisely. Finally, the projections ceased. The chamber was silent, the energy stream steady, calm. The device hovered, then lowered slightly, acknowledging completion. James felt a surge of relief and triumph. He had passed the trial, demonstrating not just intelligence, but empathy, creativity, and resilience, the hallmarks of the human spirit. The artifact in his hands pulsed warmly, merging briefly with the energy of the device. In that moment, James saw visions of the galaxy not just as it was, but as it could be. Civilizations thriving in harmony, technology advancing responsibly, life flourishing across countless worlds. The network had shown him a vision of potential, blueprint for what humans might achieve. The ship's interface activated again, projecting a new star map. Several points glowed brightly, more artifact locations, each promising new knowledge and new challenges. James understood the pattern. The network was not static. It grew with the civilizations that interacted with it. Each successful trial increased the knowledge available, preparing the next species or the next generation for greater understanding. James returned to the ship, the artifact secure once more. The city below hummed quietly, its energy settling as if satisfied with his choices. He realized the magnitude of his discovery. Humanity was now part of something much larger, a network designed to elevate intelligent life across the galaxy. As the ship lifted off, leaving the ancient city behind, James reflected on the journey so far. He had faced uncertainty, danger, and tests of character, yet each step had strengthened his understanding. The artifact network was not just a collection of devices. It was a mentor, a challenge, and a guide. And it had chosen humans not because they were perfect, but because they had the potential to rise to the challenges of the cosmos. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, and James felt both awe and determination. The next artifact awaited, and with it, new trials, new knowledge, and new opportunities to prove that humanity could rise above fear, embrace responsibility, and create a future worthy of the galaxy's vast potential. The artifact pulsed in his hand, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat, reminding him that the journey was far from over. Each challenge was a step forward, a chance to grow, and a test of what it truly meant to be human. James looked at the star map, the next point glowing brightly. The path ahead was unknown, filled with dangers and wonders alike. Yet he felt ready. The human spirit, resilient and daring, had carried him this far, and it would carry him further. With a final glance at the galaxy stretching below, James set the ship's course. The artifact pulsed once more, as if in agreement. Ahead lay new worlds, new civilizations, and the next stage of humanity's journey among the stars. And James knew, with unwavering certainty, that humans were ready to rise. The ship cut through the darkness of space, silent and precise, as James Harrington guided it toward the final point on the holographic star map. The artifact network pulsed in his hands, brighter than ever, as if anticipating the conclusion of a journey that had begun at Lake Viridian. Each previous trial, the small planet, the ancient city, the choices he had made had led to this moment. The final artifact rested on a planet unlike any he had seen. From orbit, its surface shimmered with colors that defied description, deep blues, greens, and purples that seemed to move and flow like living liquid. The planet radiated energy, almost as if it were alive. James felt a thrill of anticipation and awe. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "The final test. Or the final lesson." The artifact pulsed strongly, guiding him toward a plateau near the planet's equator. The ship descended, navigating through layers of swirling energy that distorted sensors and light. The atmosphere hummed with resonance, and James felt a tingling in his skin. Whatever awaited him here would not be simple. The landing was smooth, and James stepped out onto the surface. The ground beneath him seemed almost fluid, rippling faintly with energy. In the distance, he saw a massive structure, a crystalline tower stretching high into the sky. Light flowed along its edges, converging at a pinnacle that glowed like a sun as he approached. The artifact began to levitate from his hands. It pulsed faster, then aligned itself with the tower. Energy flowed between them, forming a bridge of light that connected the artifact to the structure. James felt a surge of understanding. This was a central hub of the network, the core that linked all artifacts across the galaxy. The tower's doors opened automatically, revealing a vast chamber filled with flowing light and energy. At the center was a platform, larger and more intricate than any he had seen before. Symbols of every kind, geometric, flowing, radiant, decorated the walls and ceiling, all converging toward the platform. James stepped onto it, and the artifact floated above his palm. A soft, omnipresent voice filled the chamber, not spoken aloud, but resonating directly in his mind. "Human, you have reached the final stage. Your journey has been guided by knowledge, courage, and choice. The network of artifacts has evaluated your species' potential. You now face a decision that will define humanity's place in the galaxy." James' heart raced. "A decision?" he asked aloud, though the voice answered directly in his mind. "Yes," it said. "The knowledge and power contained within the network may now be shared with humanity. You may rise to join the larger community of intelligent species, shaping worlds, creating civilizations, and advancing technology far beyond your current limits. Or you may leave it untouched, remaining isolated, safe from the responsibilities and dangers that come with such power." James felt the weight of the choice pressing on him. The potential was staggering. Humans could advance in ways they had never imagined, heal planets, explore the stars, solve problems that had seemed impossible. Yet with power came responsibility, risk, and the possibility of failure. Misuse could bring catastrophe. He thought back to Lake Viridian, to the first moment he had touched the artifact. He remembered the Guardian's words, "Humans have potential." He had witnessed courage, ingenuity, and compassion during the trials. Humans were flawed, yes, but capable of greatness. James looked at the artifact, feeling its pulse synchronize with his heartbeat. A calm certainty settled over him. "We're ready," he said, not just for himself, but for humanity. "We can learn. We can grow. We can rise responsibly," the tower responded. Light flowed outward, connecting with the artifact network across the galaxy. Energy pulsed, resonating with every device, every point of contact, every species aware of the network. James felt a wave of understanding. The galaxy was alive with knowledge, waiting for those ready to use it wisely. Visions filled his mind, humanity exploring distant planets, constructing cities in orbit, communicating with other species, sharing knowledge and protecting life. He saw humans learning from other civilizations, combining wisdom with ingenuity, creating a future of hope and progress. The artifact network was not just a toolet, it was a bridge, linking humanity to a universe of potential. Yet James also saw the dangers. Missteps could lead to conflict. Misuse could bring destruction. He understood now that the gift of knowledge required vigilance, compassion, and foresight. Humans had to rise not just in skill, but in character. The artifact pulsed once more, brighter than ever. James felt its energy merge with him, a final lesson in connection and understanding. It was not power alone that made a species great, but the choices made with that power, the courage to act rightly, the wisdom to guide, and the compassion to protect. He stepped back from the platform, feeling both small and immense at once. The tower's energy settled into a steady rhythm, harmonizing with the artifact in his hands. The choice had been made, and humanity's path was now intertwined with the network. As James returned to his ship, he looked at the planet below. The crystalline tower shimmered like a beacon, a symbol of potential, responsibility, and hope. The stars stretched endlessly beyond, each one a possibility, a challenge, a promise. The ship rose into orbit, leaving the planet behind. James took one last look at the galaxy unfolding before him. The journey had been long, filled with trials, tests, and lessons. Yet he felt a profound sense of pride and purpose. Humans were now part of something greater, capable of rising to meet challenges that once seemed impossible. The artifact pulsed gently in his hand, a reminder that the journey was not over. There would be new challenges, new worlds, and new trials. But humanity had proven that it could rise, guided by knowledge, courage, and wisdom. James smiled. The galaxy was vast, the possibilities limitless, and the future unwritten. Humans would explore, learn, create, and protect. They would face dangers and make mistakes. But the spark of potential, the essence of the human spirit, would guide them. Forward, as the ship glided silently through the stars, James felt a deep sense of connection. He was no longer alone. Humanity was no longer alone. The network of artifacts, the guidance of ancient civilizations, and the courage of his species had converged to open a new chapter in the story of life among the stars. And as the stars stretched endlessly into the future, James knew one truth above all. Humans had the potential not just to survive, but to rise to meet the universe with curiosity, courage, and hope. The artifact pulsed one final time, and James felt its message clear in his mind. Rise, human. Rise and fulfill your potential. With a steady hand on the ship's controls, James set a new course. The galaxy awaited, full of challenges, wonders, and possibilities. And humanity, guided by knowledge, wisdom, and spirit, is ready to rise. For the first time, James felt the full weight and beauty of humanity's potential. He was part of something greater than himself, a journey that would shape the future of his species. A story of courage, growth, and the endless drive to reach beyond the known. And he knew, without doubt, that humans would rise,